Hi Tribe, I'm Evelyn and this is Demon Dialogues, the place on Objectively Type where we talk about everybody's favorite topic, our demons. And today I want to talk about an idea that Dave and Shan have said in the class and in various videos and so forth. And that is the idea that you are just your type speaking through you. So people get up and they think, hey, I am an individual, I am, creative or unique. And so, the things that I'm saying are like hot takes that I came up with. But the thing about it is once you kind of get into this objective personality type system or any other typology systems, I think probably if you dig into it enough and you start really paying attention to people of the same type across the whole spectrum, right? You start to see patterns. And that's why this whole thing exists, is that there do seem to be some sort of pattern. So like, I could make a whole nother video about like the efficacy or the truth of typology systems in the first place, right? Some people hate them because some people say, well, you're putting me in a box, right? And there's some validity to that, right? That's fair, right? We all can't just be in boxes, but at the same time, there's patterns that people have seen over time. And so that's how these types emerge, right? And even if it's not objective personality or if it's not Myers-Briggs, there are you see patterns with people. You see commonalities with people. So like you take the DISC, for example, you've got the DISC. People who tend to be the D type tend to act a certain way. And that's the same deal with, objective personality and so forth and other typology systems. And so what I have noticed is that, so I'm going through a 32-day trip through all of the major OPS types. So you've got the 16 Myers-Briggs, the standard types, and then you've got the jumpers, resulting in 32 total, right? And I'm going day by day through each one. And what I'm finding is that like you'll take a type, for example, here's one, TENE, which is like the decider version of my type, right? And you'll listen to like several people who are TENE and you'll hear the same language over and over and over. These are totally different people. They haven't talked to each other. They haven't planned this. And what was funny and embarrassing for me as someone who's NETE is not only are they saying the same things as each other, they're saying the same things as me. They're answering the questions the same way I would answer them. Their big life discoveries were the same big life discoveries that I had, right? They talk about, well, I learned that I need to meditate in the morning. And so every morning I wake up and I sit down and I do my meditation, and then I do my workout, and then I go about my day. And I find that really grounds my day. And I'm just like sitting there watching this, like, I learned that I need to meditate in the morning. And so that's me. I wake up, and here I thought I had like discovered something. And it's like, no, you didn't discover it. Okay. Well, I discovered it, but it's the natural discovery for somebody who's NT lead play. It's like what we need. And so they found it. And guess what? I found it too, because we're kind of on the same path. I've seen this happen again and again and again. The NTs are all seeing life through this figuring out puzzling lens that they can't help it. Everything is like a puzzle that they had to figure out, right? The SFs, or I'm sorry, the savior FEs are all about like finding their true, authentic truth. Like, what is true for me? I heard a great quote from Will Smith. He said, you have to say what's true for you and then live and die by what that is. And that's because he's finding his demon TI. And I saw it again and again and again with the savior FEs. Oprah, everybody agrees that Oprah's an ENFJ. And so she's got that savior FE at the top, and she was preaching the same thing. She said you have to align your purpose, your personality, so you're like your personal who you are with your purpose. And so again, it's like finding yourself was her message. And you heard it from the EJ after EJ after EJ is finding the self is their struggle. With the IPs, finding their mission in the world, finding the tribe again and again and again. It was the same message of like, yeah, I knew who I was. I had to figure out how to serve the tribe. That's like what they come to you and they will tell you. Darren Brown had a great quote. It was something like, I'm gonna paraphrase it, but he said, if you have language for it, it's something that you had to discover. And what you find when you go through the types and you really study all the different types and you really study everybody, what you find is that we all have similar languages. We have a similar language for the thing that we had to find for our given type. So what's the purpose of that? So like, why am I telling you this as part of Demon Dialogue? Well, I'll just say that it's an important thing to remember, and it's an important thing that you can then use. What's important to remember about it is that means really none of this is real, and that what you may think is a big, deep discovery is just your path. And in some ways it's liberating because you're like, okay, so there's a lot of different choices I can make here. I don't have to be like limited to like my certain thing. Just because I'm saying this stuff, that's just like my flavor of Kool-Aid. There's lots of different flavors. That's number one. Well, really, that's number 1 and 2. I mean, so it's something good to remember, but also you can use, so once you remember it, you can then use it, right? It's like remembering that this is just programming. This is just sort of your type speaking through you, allows you to then use it, right? Now you've sort of got power over this thing, these patterns of behavior. Whereas I think before I knew about my type, I mean, I was a pretty self-aware person because of years of meditation and things like that. But I think the type gives you a nice manual, gives me a nice guide. And then I can also, the other way to use it is you can look for mentors. You can look for people who are a similar type to you, maybe not the exact same type, but people who, like in my case, like other lead plays, and like what have they done in their life? How did they find their way? And so if you're an IJ, what are the successful IJs? What have they done in your life? So that's another good way to use it. So anyway, tell me what you think on this. Do you actually think that you are your type speaking through you? Have you noticed that pattern? Or are you still thinking, no, I'm a unique snowflake. Like I've got free will. I'm not just operating my programming. I'd love to hear from you. See you next time, guys. Bye.